we're working on getting all the structure and the mounts and the fuel tank and the shock towers and everything finished on the back of this truck. And what we haven't done yet is cut holes for all of this stuff in the bottom of the bed. So today, my goal is to get all the places cut out that need to have all of these things protruding from it and get this bed set down back onto the frame at least. That way we know we can put it on and we can take it off. That way we can start working on the roll cage for this thing. So on the bottom of that bed, there is a stud that goes through this hole. I left myself enough room to where I can cut up to an inch away from the stud, leaving enough room for this fuel tank to come through. If you come over here, this is the mounting stud. And when we look at that, this cross piece right here is about an inch away from the middle of this stud. What I'm going to end up doing is cutting along and then re-tack welding it to the bottom of the bed, since the rivets are on this piece of flange right here. Another thing we noticed about this mount is that we are 3 inches to the driver's side of this hole, and I want to go 3.5 inches over and start making the other cut on this side of the bed. If you remember when we mounted this fuel tank, I measured from this stud to this pinch seam right here, and that's 4 inches. So about a 1/2 inch away from there, I'm going to cut it up this way. And then 11 inches from there, I'm going to cut it along here. And then we'll make a square hole that's 31 inches long and 11 inches wide. That should get me to a point where at least my fuel tank will stick up through the bottom of the bed. Well, the next measurement we need to take is from the mounting stud on the other side to where the shock tower is. That's about, let's say, 30.5 inches. So 30.5 inches and 40 inches. Right there. Right there. To make this next measurement more simpler, I'm going to find where the middle of this bar of this is. And then I can mark the center point on this, I can mark the center point on the bed, and then I know exactly how far I need to cut for these shock towers. So this is 44.5, which would be 22.25. Set 22.25. That's our center point. Now, because these shock towers lean in a little bit, the hole needs to be a little wider on this side. For one, to allow this shock to swing out, but also because if we didn't make the holes wider, then the bed wouldn't be able to slide in between these two shock towers. So we get a straight edge, we put it right about there. I can mark on this tube right here on one side, on the other. We'll see how far away from the center point that is. Foot and 1/2, 1 3/4, and it's about the same on this side. So if we say that's 1.5 feet, means the bed's going to fit exactly between these two parts. But to give myself a little bit of room, I'm going to take a 1/2 inch away from each, which means 1 inch away from the measurement would be right about right there. Seems like it's going to be about halfway up this little valley right here. Now we just take a second measurement from the outside of these, which give ourselves about a 1/2 inch, and that's about 19 and a quarter. 19 and a quarter on the other side. I think maybe D shapes might be nice. They have to be wide enough to fit the bottom of that shock mount, but then we can kind of round off the inside of this hole. Because not only do we have to fit the bed over the shock towers, but the shocks have to go through the bed as well. So they're going to need some room to move around right there. I've decided that I'm going to use this for the round part of this hole. So we could extend that all the way to here. Just for reference, make a line there. So there's our basic box. And then I'm going to use this edge right here to make a curved V shape on said box. And you're going to have holes in your truck bed, at least attempt to make them aesthetically pleasing. Am I right? After I cut those two holes out, it's time to pick this bed up and see if it fits on there. I either need a new shield for my face mask, or I need to get one that's not so loose that it falls down all the time when I'm wearing it. I'm going to be totally stoked if that fits on there the first try. Move this track over to a place where we can pick it up. Here's the moment of truth. Let's see if I cut these holes right the very first time. There's the shock towers. A fuel tank. Awesome. Awesome. Now the holes line up or not. Oh boy. You gotta be kidding me. Oh. Let me remove this chain and these straps so we can get a good look at this. I'm not sure what I was worried about. These sticking through the bed don't even look as bad as I thought they would. The tank looks awesome. 7 inches. So that's interesting because the tank is tilted toward the front, this side is actually very more shallow into the bed than the other side. But this is a 12-inch tall tank, which means I've sunk it 5 inches down. 15-gallon tank times 8 and something, you know, there's 100 pounds probably of fuel in this thing when it's full. So the lower that I can mount this fuel tank, the better, because that's low center of gravity. And also the other thing that I wanted to do, besides making this look really cool, is I'm gonna need all this space up here for airflow from the radiator. This means that I can mount the radiator lower in the truck and I'll still be able to see out my window. Got a big old fan and radiator right there. So I am super stoked about this. The other thing that I can do now is to cut a small hole right here so that I can put a cage mount right to the top of these upper spring mounts. And once that's done and I figure out how I'm going to mount the battery exactly, I could bedline this and put the trim guard on all these holes and it'll look really good. One thing I am thinking about is now that I have open holes where the shocks go, I can't really put anything loose in the bed because I'll risk it falling through. So I'm gonna have to come up with some kind of toolbox arrangement, possibly in the middle. I don't think that I'll have enough room for a spare tire unless I stand it up somewhere. But I can make a toolbox and I can put all kinds of air compressor, battery, radiator, transmission cooler, and a little toolbox to do my field repair tools. I hope you have a wonderful Christmas and a Happy New Year. In January, I'm going to upload my first video with me building the ExoFab cage on this truck. You don't want to miss that. I'll see you guys next Monday. Who welded this?